Conservation Infringement System Bill, interrupted debate on first reading.
Sorry. This is the first reading on Conservation Infringement System Bill. When the bill was last considered, the Honourable Dr. Nick Smith had the call. He has 5 minutes and 40 seconds remaining to speak. I call Jenny Marcroft.
Kia ora, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you for the opportunity to stand and speak on behalf of New Zealand First on the Conservation Infringement System Bill. Much of New Zealand's taonga exists within nature's stores. The lure of New Zealand, for many, lies in the environmental uniqueness of our national parks and reserves, our native wildlife, and our outdooring culture. Unfortunately, though, these treasures are vulnerable to corruption and misuse, and people do take advantage of this. So personally, I am pleased to see the Conservation Infringement System Bill in the House today. It is good to address this issue, and it will give the Department of Conservation the ability to issue infringement notices for minor offending. Now, currently, we have a system where someone who breaks the law either goes through the costly court system for a major offence, and I'd like to make a note of the example of the Kereru crimes that hit the headlines a couple of years ago when a certain matua, a whanaunga from the north, tried to smuggle the birds out under his coat after a hunting trip in Ngaitahu. Now, there, of course, was no other option but the full force of the law to come down hard. However, at the other end of the scale, the minor end of the scale, maybe, say, a tourist who drops rubbish as they're walking or mountain biking around the redwoods in Rotorua, should they get caught, all they get slapped with is a wet bus ticket. Madam Speaker, this bill will tidy up the law, and those who commit an offence at the minor end of the scale will face real consequences in the way of an instant fine. From the Bill's Digest, the purpose of the bill is to create systems of infringement offences for less serious offending under the following acts, which are administered and enforced by the Department of Conservation and local authorities: the Conservation Act 1987, the Marine Mammals Protection Act 1978, the Marine Reserves Act 1971, the National Parks Act 1980, the Reserves Act 1977, Trade and Endangered Species Act 1989, the Wild Animal Control Act 1977, and the Wildlife Act 1953. It's important to note that the bill doesn't create any new offences, and the penalty is to be set by regulation and must not exceed more than $1,000. From DOC's regulatory impact statement, I note the Department of Conservation, DOC, administers about 1/3 of New Zealand's land area. That's more than 8 million hectares, 44 marine reserves, 6 marine mammal sanctuaries. That totals 4,115,669 hectares for the purposes of conservation. Now, in addition, DOC also protects, conserves or manages native freshwater fisheries, recreational freshwater fisheries, and protected native wildlife, and controls harmful species of introduced wild animals and regulates the hunting of these animals. Now, as we can see, this is a vast area that DOC is responsible for. And for such a vast area, it's imperative that there is a better system to allow DOC to carry out their work. The Conservation Infringement System Bill hopes to fix the anomaly where the Department of Conservation is the only major government agency that lacks the power to use such a system in enforcing laws within their jurisdiction. It's not a new concept at all. These systems exist already in many other areas of law, certainly for traffic offences and more relevantly in the Fisheries Act. This bill will bring conservation legislation in line with similar acts and creates consistency across our legislation. Now, what are some of these activities that would be treated as an infringement offence? Well, there would be breaches of the whitebait regulations. They're some of the most numerous prosecutions currently, illegal fishing in marine reserves, and also offences relating to the taupo trout fishery, This bill would enable DOC to manage littering in public conservation land through the infringement offence. And what about those who foul our special natural spaces? Freedom campers who leave behind their nasty business. Well, I do note that the Freedom Camping Act 2011 already contains separate infringement offences, and so DOC can use these. So this bill doesn't actually affect freedom camping. Now, overall, the bill seeks to make conservation and protection efforts more effective, as actions previously inappropriate for prosecution will have more of a consequence than just a warning, just a shake of the head and a wag of the finger and a tut-tut. The scale of the infringement system means that penalties will be better matched to the degree and seriousness of the offence. Since its beginning, DOC has had to deal with offenders in one of two extremes, either by way of a warning or an official prosecution. Warnings are equivalent to a slap on the wrist and do little to deter people from continuing and committing further offences. They really have the desired effect of changing people's behaviour. DOC currently issues around 200 warnings a year and are concerned that the numbers will increase as minor offences continue to occur without a specific remedial penalty. Madam Speaker, the bill will remove unnecessary costs to the judicial system, as fewer of the minor offences will need to be addressed in the courts. This will be beneficial for Kiwis also, as well as tourists, as this is a difficult process to manoeuvre and can have lasting impacts on future endeavours. Currently, the prosecutions take time and resources from both DOC and the court system. It's also a huge impediment to individuals who commit minor offences and must endure the hassle of the court system and the lasting impact that any criminal conviction has on their future, on their life, their future rights and freedoms. There are a number of examples where we can see the need for a better system. In 2016, in the Kaweka Forest Park, 2 hunters were found without permits. They were trespassed. A couple using a campfire in the Mangatutu hot springs were given a verbal warning from a DOC officer, only to be discovered again with another fire. They were then trespassed. Now, these kinds of infringements are very real breaches of the law, but a warning or even a trespass notice may not cause the offender to change their behaviour in a way that a fine might. Now, even though the fines won't be paid directly to DOC, it is a way for DOC to recoup some losses they encounter as a result of offending. Madam Speaker, minor offences can have an impact on the environment and on the resources available to DOC. By using infringement notices for these minor and medium offences, some of this will be accounted for, and DOC's resources can be better spent on improving conservation rather than repairing damages caused by these offences. And I'd just like to note New Zealand First is concerned about the safety of these warranted officers that will be carrying out this work. DOC maintains a nationwide network of warranted officers who are formally trained and hold official warrants to undertake compliance and enforcement activities. New Zealand First would like to see that these DOC warranted officers are suitably trained and equipped with the appropriate safety gear for the work that they will have to carry out. At December 2017, 111 incidents of threat, harassment, intimidation or assault to DOC workers had been recorded since 2006, when records first started being kept. We must ensure their safety. I'd also like to just note that the concerns may come from the public around this introducing such a system. They may think it's in fact a way of gathering revenue. There are no new offences being added to this piece of legislation, and the fines will be capped at $1,000. Madam Speaker, essentially the main focus of DOC is the protection and conservation of our natural taonga. It's the responsibility of DOC to carry out in the best way possible, and they have a duty to ensure this. However, they absolutely need the proper tools to carry out this program. The Conservation Infringement System Bill will give the Department that tool. Human activities are among the contributing factors that lead to the degradation of our natural environment, our natural heritage. If we tread with heavy footsteps, then at the very least we need to ensure we mitigate the effects and that some form of compensation is made to reset the balance. A lack of respect for Papatūānuku, our precious taonga, our nature stores, that we are all kaitiaki of, must not be allowed to continue without consequence. An infringement system is long overdue, and New Zealand First will support this bill. Kia ora koutou.
Thank you.